Millionaire single dad sees Waitress teaching his nonverbal son to speak. What he does next changes her life forever. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Maple Grove Diner, casting golden patterns across the red vinyl booths. Thomas Mitchell sat quietly across from his 8-year-old son, watching as the boy traced invisible shapes on the formica table with his finger. At 40, Thomas had built a successful investment firm from nothing, but all the money in the world couldn't solve the one challenge that mattered most to him. His son Ethan hadn't spoken a word since his mother's passing 3 years ago. The specialists had different names for it, but Thomas simply called it grief. Ethan was a beautiful child with soft brown hair that fell across his forehead and thoughtful hazel eyes that seemed to hold entire conversations. He communicated through gentle gestures and meaningful glances, but Thomas asked Dee to hear his son's voice again. Their regular waitress, Sarah, approached with her usual warm smile. At 27, she had the kind of face that made people feel instantly at ease. Her dark blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she moved with the graceful efficiency of someone who'd been serving others for years. "Good afternoon, you two," Sarah said softly, placing 2 glasses of water on the table. "The usual today." Thomas nodded, then watched something remarkable happen. Sarah pulled a small yellow sticky note from her apron pocket. On it, she'd drawn a simple smiley face. She handed it to Ethan, who accepted it with both hands, studying it carefully. "You know what?" Sarah said, settling into the booth beside Ethan. "I think this little guy is trying to tell me something important." She pointed to the smiley face, then gently touched her own cheek. "Happy," she said clearly. And she drew a different face on another sticky note one with a straight line for a mouth. "Okay," she said, showing Ethan. Thomas watched, hardly breathing, as his son pointed to the first sticky note, then touched his own cheek in the same gentle way Sarah had done. "That's right, sweetheart," Sarah whispered. "You're telling me you're happy. I can see it in your eyes." Week after week, Thomas brought Ethan to the diner. Each visit, Sarah would spend a few extra minutes with them, never rushing, never making Ethan feel different or strange. She created a whole collection of drawings, simple pictures of food emotions and everyday objects. Gradually, Ethan began pointing to things he wanted, using Sarah's visual language to communicate. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, Sarah sat beside Ethan as usual. She'd drawn a picture of a glass of water and was encouraging him to point to it when he wanted a refill. "Wah!" The sound was barely audible, but Sarah's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to Thomas, who had gone completely still. Ethan looked up at Sarah, then at his father. "Water," he said softly, the word clear and precious. Thomas felt tears spring to his eyes. It was the first word his son had spoken in 3 years. Over the following months, Sarah continued her patient work. She never asked for anything in return, never mentioned the extra time she spent with them. To her, it was simply what you did. You helped where you could. Thomas learned that Sarah was a single mother herself, working 2 jobs to support her young daughter. She dropped out of college when her daughter was small, and despite her intelligence and kindness, opportunities had been limited. As Ethan's vocabulary slowly expanded, Thomas found himself falling in love, not just with Sarah's dedication to his son, but with her gentle wisdom and unshakable compassion. She treated every customer with the same kindness, remembered their preferences, asked about their families. One evening, as the diner was closing, Thomas waited for Sarah in the parking lot. The autumn air was crisp, reminding him of the season when his wife had passed. But for the first time in years, he felt hope instead of only sadness. "Sarah?" He called gently. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" She walked over, still wearing her apron, looking tired but content after a long day. "I've been thinking," Thomas began, "about what you've done for Ethan, for us. You've given my son back his voice." Sarah shook her head. "He always had his voice, Thomas. He just needed time to find it again." "I know you're working toward your nursing degree," Thomas continued. "I'd like to help. Full tuition, whatever you need. And there's a position at my company assistant to the community outreach director. The hours would work with your school schedule." Sarah stared at him, speechless for a moment. Thomas, I can't accept that. It's too much. It's not nearly enough, he said quietly. You've changed our lives. Let us help change yours. 6 months later, Thomas stood in Sarah's small apartment, helping her pack for her move to a larger place closer to the university. Ethan sat on the floor, chattering happily to Sarah's daughter about his favorite books. Are you sure about this? Sarah asked, folding a sweater carefully. They'd been dating for 3 months now, taking everything slowly, building trust and understanding. I never been more sure of anything, Thomas replied. Ethan adores you. I love you, and you've shown us both what real kindness looks like. The sound of children's laughter filled the room as Ethan and Sarah's daughter played together. Outside, the spring air carried the promise of new beginnings. Sometimes, Thomas reflected, the most profound changes come not from grand gestures, but from small acts of daily kindness. A sticky note with a smiley face, a patient moment in a busy day. The simple decision to see the best in others. In helping his son find his voice, Sarah had helped Thomas find his heart again, and in return he'd given her the chance to pursue her dreams. Dreams that now included all of them a family built on understanding, patience, and love. As they prepared to start their new life together, Thomas knew that some of the most beautiful things in life come not from what we can buy, but from what we choose to give freely. Our time, our attention, and our care for one